Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. And this is an update on the Carrington event analysis that I've been doing. Um, there have been folks that have challenged me that said it's bullshit. It's not going to happen. It's like worrying about the sun dying out or some thing to happen 100 million years from now. I'm here to tell you that is not the case. That is not the case. The Carrington event, for all intents and purposes, will happen, and within our time scale, the human time scale, it is imminent. That means within my lifetime, your children's lifetime, and so forth. So this is not a trivial thing to consider. It's worrisome because in order to prepare oneself, one's family, your mindset, whatever, there are some drastic decisions you're going to have to make. I've been talking about some that have to do with, I just put it in the prepping category, things to be prepared for. But the length of time and the consequences are, it's crazy. But let me take you through the science of this. First, there's a Carrington event is not just a solar flare, a big one. That's not it. Yes, it is a solar flare on steroids. So let me explain. So solar flares have been tracked for a long time, especially since we've had satellites and that kind of thing. There are three classes. There are three classes of solar flare. C, which is kind of like, we don't even feel those. M, those are annoying, and they knock out comms in localized areas and sometimes globally, especially with our satellites, but they recover. Now, one thing to know about the classification is that these classifications are 10, so a C is the baseline, and M is 10 times higher, 10 times more powerful than a C. And X, which is the highest classification, is 10 times more powerful than a C. So you get my drift, right? An X class is the most disruptive and dangerous type of flare to happen. And it has happened, an X class, in recent history, 2003. In 2003, an X-28 hit the Earth. And it was pretty disruptive. It wasn't publicized, and a lot of you were kids, right? And you didn't care. 2003, I had just moved to where I am. So that wasn't something that I really paid attention to. But it was an X-28 in 2003. A Carrington event is estimated to be an X-50. An X-50. The devastation at the X, remember, everything is multiplied times 10, even inside the X, inside the classes. So your 1 to 2 is not just linear. It's logarithmic. So for you math geeks, every time you go up, it's logarithmic. And X-50 is global changing. And I've talked about some of that earlier, so I'm going to reiterate what that means. It is not just a solar flare. It is a solar flare with a coronal mass ejection, which then delivers massive geomagnetic storms onto the Earth the entire earth. So think about that for a minute, right? And the only known countermeasure, other than burying oneself deep in the earth, I mean, like the Iranians trying to avoid our bombs kind of thing, is the Faraday strategy, right? And that's to protect the devices, the technical devices that you want to keep. But the impact of that, all power, that delivers the things that we have come to need, food and water, right, are gone. So if you don't already live where there's water, you're screwed. Everyone in the Southwest, everyone in an arid sub-Saharan Africa, anywhere, they're just going to die. They're just going to die, right? 80% of the food production on the planet will be disrupted. That means go away. 80% of food production on the earth will go away because we're so technologically dependent on that. That will create famine and drought. So, like I said, if you live I'm in America, so if you live in Southern California, you live in the Southwest, you're pretty hosed up. You can't leave fast enough to survive because you can't travel fast enough to survive. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? So those people who live, turn the Wayback Machine way back. If you already live in the Pacific Northwest, if you already live in New England, if you already live in the Mississippi Valley, right, where there's water, nasty water, but it's water. If you already live there, then you have access to water and food, but you're going to have to do the food old-fashioned way. People in Hawaii and in Polynesia, the Hawaiians did very well during the Great Depression because, one, they didn't have tourists there to gobble up all the food and everything. And food is plentiful. You walk down in a village and there's food on trees, in the ground. If you know how to dive and fish, there's fish in the ocean. Fish aren't going to be hurt. The plants aren't going to be hurt. You see what I'm saying? So there will be places that survive this. But most of the people that live in urban areas will die, right? That is what an X50 means. An X50 means that. An X28, I will say again, an X28 in 2003 happened. An X50 is not outside the realm of possibility and probability in the next few years. So I'm kind of ranting a little bit because it fires me up and it should fire you up as well. People don't want to look at this. They don't want to think about this because it is inconvenient. Geopolitics will be affected. There won't be any world wars because there won't be any energy to run the war toys. Maybe that's why there's so much energy now to stake one's claim, to conquer, to disrupt people that we think are our enemies now, because we won't be able to do that. We won't be able to project power as a country because we won't have any way to project. Planes won't fly, ships won't sail, bombs won't bomb. That's just the way it is. And nobody can get us either. So it goes both ways. But in this country, as large as it is, if you are not already residing in an area that has food and water, you're not going to be able to grow food and water the current way. People are going to, there's too many zombie movies, right? Too many movies of people going out and living rough in the woods and building huts in the ground and stuff. No. Then we will revert back to lack of medicine, lack of things that we have come used to. our longevity will drop, infant mortality will increase, more women will die in childbirth, just like it used to be. That is not a pleasant thing to think about. Mike, you must think about that, or just accept the fact that you don't care if you die and your family dies. You just don't care because it's too inconvenient to think about. So X50, X50. Yeah. You know, when I did the research and all I could think about was, holy shit. If I was living in Southern California today, and then I found out about this, I would get everything I could together and move to where I am now. I would. And I don't care what it would cost, but that's what I would do. I would leave that place. Right? Now, some will say, well, why would you do that? Why don't you just gamble that it won't happen? Because I don't want to gamble like that. Anyway, so I thought I'd put this out there to quantify with the science what the reality is and what the reality will probably be in what we know as human imminent time frame. So if you have some thoughts, if you disagree, that's fine. If you have other evidence that mitigates what I've just told you, fine. But before you do that, subscribe and hit the bell icon, at least I know you're there. And one of the things we're going to have to do is defend where you are, because there will be, as I said in another video, scavengers and marauders. All marauders are scavengers, but not all scavengers are marauders. But you do not want to interact with a scavenger unless they bring something to the party. Just because somebody comes up to where you are and they're like beggars, right? Please help me out. No. Do you have a skill? Do you have food? Do you have something that can improve the community where I am? If no, you're sorry, you're going to have to leave. You're just going to have to go. Women. Pregnancy will be the most dangerous time for women, because a lot of the issues that women have today can be resolved with modern medicine. That is not going to be the case if one of these things happen. So I just put that out there. Men, and probably a lot of women, will become warriors, and a lot of us will die in battle, die in combat, defending where we are, like the old days. Now, who will not be affected as much? Well, I said Hawaii. Food grows on trees out of the ground. If you know how to fish, you know how to dive, you can go get fish. That's what happened in the Great Depression. They won't have tourists to gobble up all their stuff, and the same is true for Polynesia. They were and still are experts in navigating between islands in the Pacific. Let's go to the Nordic countries, where they were seafaring people. Yeah, they stayed close to coastlines, but they could move and they could build their ships and so forth. So shipbuilding will become a skill, because then you can travel around. You can trade with others. The same is true if you're living in the Mississippi Valley, for example. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it is going to be for 80% of the people. So with that, wherever you can, whenever you can, however you can, carry on.